Welcome, explorers, to Explore the Force. Thank you for joining us on this week's Bad Batch review as we review episodes 10 and 11. If you haven't seen those episodes yet, please stop what you're doing, go and watch the episodes, and then come and join us for our review. Or if you want to stick around for the spoilers and get right into it, then stick around as we delve right into it. As always, joining me is my partner in crime. It's Jimmy the Jedi.
Howdy.
And a friend closer to me than he is close to Jimmy, it's Jonny.
Hiya, Jack. Hiya, Jimmy.
Hey,
How you
Johnny.
doing, buddy?
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, lovely to be here. Thanks for asking me on the show.
Not a problem. As always then, Jonny, any new guests that come on our show, if you'd like to just introduce yourself, where you're from, a bit about your social media as well, where people can find you when they want to reach out to you after the show.
Sure. You're assuming they won't have had enough of me by the end of the show, Jack. But yeah, I appreciate your optimism. My name is Jonny Maynor. I'm a 46-year-old Star Wars fan who reads and writes and talks about Star Wars books and comics, both on Instagram as at Journals of the Wills and as part of what we call the core admin team over at the Star Wars Book Community podcast. I guess I've been using Instagram primarily as kind of a micro blog, charting my Star Wars reading journey, I guess for 3 years now. I tried to keep up with the books and comics after that canon reboot in 2014. I thought this is my chance. I dipped into it in the 90s as a teenager. I didn't have time to keep up, and after a while, you're like, man, there's decades worth of material I don't know where to start anymore. So I kind of thought, canon reboot, that's my jam. I will just keep up. But I'm a middle-aged guy. I was super busy with my career. I had a young family. Inevitably there were reading slumps and the gaps started opening up in my canon knowledge, despite my best intentions. But in early 2020, I guess, I made a point of trying to catch up. And the more I read, the more admiration I had for that amazing pool of writing talent that they've got working on some of that material, and my admiration for the quality of the writing actually grew, and I just felt, I want to talk about this stuff, and like a lot of us, I didn't know a whole lot of people in my real life who were as invested in Star Wars as I am. I couldn't just tap somebody on the shoulder at the school gates, dropping off the kids, saying, "Hey, have you read the new High Republic book?" That's not going to happen. But I felt like I needed to talk about it. Like there had to be an output as well as me just shoving all this stuff into my brain. And that's how the Star Wars Bookstagram account, Journals of the Wills, came about. I didn't really know what I was going to find online. In terms of what the Star Wars fandom online was going to be like. I'd seen a lot of the post The Last Jedi vitriol on Twitter. I'd peek into Dumpster Fire of the Week over there from time to time and think, oh gods, I don't know if I can deal with that. So I was slightly apprehensive, about exposing myself to kind of crazy troll people with more hot takes than knowledge, because that's what I think people think the Star Wars fandom is like online. But I was determined to try to talk sensibly and articulately about these books and comics that that comprise really the lion's share of the canon, at least in terms of volume, if not always in terms of import. So even my choice of social media handle was kind of intended to showcase, like, I'm serious about this. I'm not about I'm about the deep cuts, not the hot takes. And I kind of hoped that would at least maybe attract my kind of Star Wars fan, and try to ring fence myself a little bit from some of the other stuff that's going on out there. What I absolutely did not expect to find, guys, was, I guess, there's a pre-existing, thriving community of folk who were talking about the books and comics. There were definitely a lot of us who kind of started around the same time, but there were definitely some more well-established creators even by that time, sort of 3+ years ago. But it didn't take long, I think, for a lot of us to kind of find each other and start to circle around each other a bit. And only a few months later, it was Chris Davies, who goes by at SW Book Collector on Instagram, and our good friend John, who goes by at Star Wars Pada 101, who you may know from Instagram. And those two guys set up this group chat on Instagram, kind of just as, I guess that's what grew into what we decided to call the Star Wars book community. This sort of informal group of positive book and comic fans who kind of want to lift up Star Wars and each other. There was no point us all talking about this stuff, but kind of competing with each other for followers and stuff. Because that wasn't what we were about. So that's kind of what the Star Wars book community came from. And sort of fast forward another couple of years to last summer, and I started to have conversations with one of the gang, Dan, who was formerly of the Live from Vader's Castle podcast, and about maybe doing something in audio. I actually just wanted to do what actually became our holiday quiz episode. I was like, can we do a book quiz, please? That was my bag. I was like, I don't really want to do a podcast, but I'll take part in a quiz. I'll help organize it. But one thing led to another. We got Chris on board and later Morgan, and that's kind of our little core admin group right there. And suddenly we had a podcast, and not just a podcast, but one that turns out 2, sometimes 3 episodes a week, because we're just spreading the workload.
Nice.
I've been heading up Legends Library, going through the Legends continuity and timeline order. We're just about to dive into the Darth Bane novels over there on that show. Dan has been taking the lead on Canon Catch-Up, going through the canon in publication order. That show is currently caught up to about May 2016, so there's still some little way to go, even on kind of weekly episodes. That'll be ticking on for a couple of years before that show catches up.
I can imagine.
By the same token, I'll be doing Legends Library well into my 60s, I think, and we'll still not have got to the whenever Legacy of the Force or whatever else is going on in that back end of that timeline. Dan, Chris, and Dan's old co-host from Live at Vader's Castle, John Lee, they do like a monthly comics roundup. We have author interviews, round table discussions about the latest books, special episodes when we talk to academics and folk who write about Star Wars. It's kind of crazy how busy we've been. Less than a year on, I just looked at our feed today. We somehow dropped 99 episodes, and we're about to drop episode 100 in later this week as we record. Which is mad. We didn't even notice, guys. Like we've done. There's been no fanfare. We haven't hey, it's our 100th episode. We're just flat out just doing the things.
Nice.
Which is great. We couldn't have envisaged that it would have gone so well. One thing I will say is it's absolutely caned my ability to keep up with my reading list. I spent so much time revisiting books to chat about them on the podcast that actually the books I haven't read yet are just like piling up and piling up and piling up. But that's a first world problem, and it's a good Star Wars fan problem to have, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much Star Wars out there for everybody. That's the beautiful thing about it. You mentioned the community. We've got a massive community over on our Facebook and Instagram. People are always posting stuff. We're looking to start a Star Wars Unlimited gaming night, hopefully get enough interest in that and get that going. There's loads of posts up there daily, loads of people talking, and it's all around the world. And the beautiful thing about our podcast is, it's covering 3 continents, so there's always someone on 24/7, loads of content that gets pushed out. We very rarely miss anything. Everything's covered. And like you said, I think we're on nearly 50 episodes. We're not even a year old yet. We're still pushing the boundaries, but it's brilliant to see how much passion you've got, Jonny. It does show. So anyone that's interested, and I'm sure there'll be loads of people. The link for Jonny's Journey of the Wills, it will be on the episode. So make sure you hit them a like, a follow, subscribe, and make sure you go and check Jonny and his gang out. Awesome. Thank you very much, Jonny.
Thank you.
All right. So, Jonny, I got a couple questions for you. As a Star Wars fan, you're a little bit closer to my age than you are Jack, so this will be fun. Like maybe we'll have some things in common.
Yeah, I can see the salt and pepper in your beard there, Jimmy. I think that's true.
Yeah,
if I take my cap off, you'll see the state of my head.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's being a high school teacher right there. That'll do this to you. But okay, so what movie would you say got you into, or did you fall in love with Star Wars to the point now where you're at episode 100, you're reading all the canon and legend books? I mean, you're passionate, and I love it. So what movie or TV show, what did it for you that brought you into Star Wars?
I mean, it was the first movie. It was A New Hope, or as we called it, as you know, it was just Star Wars. I was born in '77, so I missed the first two movies at the cinema, at the theater, as you say, in North America. But I guess I would have been 5 years old in 1982, and my older brother taped the original movie from TV. Jack, you'll be familiar with the channel ITV. So this was this was the UK premiere of the original Star Wars movie in 1982, I believe, on UK terrestrial TV, with ad breaks and everything. They'd recorded all the ads. I can still remember which ads were in that recording. We watched that thing to death, and then and I guess my first Kenner Star Wars figure probably followed quickly on the back of that. It was the Cloud Car Pilot. I don't know why I chose the Cloud Car Pilot. In fact, I hadn't seen The Empire Strikes Back. I wouldn't see The Empire Strikes Back for at least another 6 or 7 years. It was the last of the original trilogy that I saw. I saw it all in the wrong order. But I loved that Cloud Car Pilot. And then that Christmas was our big Star Wars Christmas. That was Kenner toys. It was the AT-AT. It was the Millennium Falcon.
Nice.
It was all the great stuff that was available by '82 anyway. And then my first cinema theater experience the next summer was Return of the Jedi. I'd never been to the cinema before, and that was just a massive, massive treat. And I've been in love with Star Wars ever since. All the way through even the Dark Ages, when all we had was crazy droids, cartoons, and
holiday specials,
weird Ewok movies with wicked talking, and all of the rest of it. And then as a teenager, then when some of those books and comics started to drop, I kind of dipped into that, and I was enjoying that for the most part. But university life took over. I didn't have the disposable income as a teenager, for one, to keep up with it. And I was busy with college and university and stuff, so it really wasn't until my probably late 20s, early 30s, when I had a bit more money in my pocket, and I was able to kind of start getting back to what we now call the Legends continuity. I started diving into some of that a bit more, and then, as I said before, with the canon reboot, that kind of really revitalized everything.
Awesome.
I was determined at that point to kind of keep up.
Yeah, I would say I've not read a lot of the canon books, but I mean, just trying to keep up with the High Republic itself is kind of torturous.
It's
luckily
nuts. It's nuts how much of that there is already.
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite? I mean, I know you love the Cloud City Pilots, but do you have a favorite character that someone you identify with, or just a character that popped off the screen at you?
Everybody else on the podcast knows of me that I'm terrible at picking favorites. I will haver and equivocate and caveat. So, in terms of, I mean, I could tell you from each trilogy. Maybe I can give you a quick rundown. Prequels, I'll pick Padme. The original trilogy, Ben Kenobi, probably. And the sequel trilogy, Rose Tico. There you go. And I guess Legends books and comics call it Kara Holt from the Knight Errant series, and maybe canon books Princess Leia. As much as I love Princess Leia in the movies, I actually think the stuff I love about Leia is in the books and comics. I don't actually think the movies do an awful lot with that character, to be honest with you.
No, they definitely don't. How do you feel about the state of Star Wars right now? Like, you're happy with the way it's going? I mean, obviously they brought all these books back for you. We just had Mark Thompson on the show not too long ago. He's going to be doing a lot of those books, unabridged versions. So, how do you feel about the state of Star Wars? Movies, TV shows.
Yeah. Before I get to that, Mark Thompson, what an absolute genius and what a talent, right?
Yeah, he's incredible.
I mean, I think there's only one time I've ever listened to something narrated by him, and it kind of wasn't doing it for me. And it was in Thrawn Alliances, his Padme voice really cracked me up. But everything else, I absolutely adore. And in fact, I recently re-listened to, and I really listen to it more or less every year, the Dark Disciple audiobook. And Mark Thompson delivers. He delivers almost like a one-man full cast Clone Wars performance. It is unbelievably good. I think no man should have an Asajj Ventress as good as that guy does. He
it's
nails
impressive.
That. It's so good. Sorry, yes. So what was your actual question, Jimmy?
The state of Star Wars. Are you happy with where Star Wars is at? Heading? Fandom, just in general.
You know what? I am. And I think a lot more people probably are than folk might imagine. I tire of the narrative that somehow Disney is ruining Star Wars.
Yes,
all of the stuff that we've all seen ad nauseum online. I don't buy it because I'm a 46-year-old guy who's been there since very early on, and I am loving it. And if I'm loving it, then lots of other people are loving it, particularly the folk for whom it's obviously intended, And not all of it's intended for me, and I'm still finding the stuff to love about it, And I'm cool with not being the intended audience for absolutely
so much
everything.
of it, and there's so much for everybody, so...
I mean, we're in this weird place, that... there was I'm sure there was definitely a time in my life when I kind of thought, oh, that's Star Wars. I saw the end of it. There's going to be no more Star Wars. Most of us we are not going to live to see the end of Star Wars, and I mean that's kind of bittersweet. I kind of, come the day they stick me in the ground or send me up in smoke, there will be more Star Wars coming out that I'll be missing. That's a bit annoying, but also how wonderful.
Yes.
Brilliant.
That's so weird. I've had that same thought, Johnny. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to miss something eventually, but awesome.
Well, I better not die, just on the cusp of, they're about to release the final episode of a new trilogy or something. You know what I mean? I want to at least have, rounded off whatever it is that's kind of in the ether.
Yeah, kind of go out with...
Before that happens, let's dive into the Bad Batch then.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So I feel like I know you, Johnny. I feel like you and I have a lot in common. Not my first theater experience, but my first movie experience, Star Wars, was also Return of the Jedi. So that is impactful. But yeah, we're here. We're going to dive into these 2 episodes of the Bad Batch. First one, episode 10, Identity Crisis, directed by Saul Ruiz and written by Amanda Rose Munoz. I guess right off the top of the bat, guys, I feel like we opened up and we talked about this. Those first 3 episodes we got kind of dark, kind of woof, right? And then it kind of picked up a little bit. And then how are we feeling about these 2 episodes? Because I know we said off air that I was almost not dreading having this conversation, but I was kind of man, these are really dark, and I'm almost sad a little bit after watching these 2 episodes. But we'll focus on Identity Crisis, episode 10. How are you guys feeling about what we saw, mostly about Emery?
Go on, Johnny, you're the guest.
Okay, cool. I mean, it's fairly downbeat again, isn't it? It's... And I feel it felt very much like that opening episode on Tantus as well. I was getting a lot of the same vibes. Some of the music was sort of in the same sort of place as well. Same sort of pacing. Just this kind of day-to-day grind of somebody's life there. Although we were following Omega, really, as the POV in that opening episode. And here we're with Emery Carr. Is she the only clone who has a surname, or is that just me? I mean, where did she get a surname from?
That's just what she got named.
Yeah, that's what was weird that she does have that, because I feel like there's all those women clones that you see. They're all, I mean, I'm assuming they're all clones. They all look alike, but they never show them close enough. But yeah, that's actually a pretty valid question.
She was handpicked as well, wasn't she? So
I guess I kind of wondered if it was they gave her a more normal, inverted commas, sounding name so that she could pass herself off as not a clone or something, so that she wouldn't be.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, I was
It's more,
thinking
it's more status than anything, I think, because all the
Maybe-
clones might
Yeah.
have just the one name, whereas she was handpicked. You know, she was top of the
Yeah.
class, etc. So
kind of talked about being abandoned by the Kaminoans.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a backstory there. I'm sure there is. There always is a backstory there, but I feel like they were like she was put out in the real world to see how she would function or something, and that's
Yeah.
maybe she got scooped back up by Hemlock for what she was doing, but yeah, that's a really good point.
I enjoyed this episode because of that vibe. I thought the season opener was finally. I was sold on the Bad Batch at the start of this season. I've been I've been enjoying it well enough, but I was never the biggest fan of the series. But those opening episodes of this season 3 really sold me, and I was finally finding myself invested in the show. And Identity Crisis, give me some of those same vibes that I really, really enjoyed. But yeah, kind of downbeat, you know. I was certainly ready for some of the action beats that came along in the second episode today, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's bringing down the vibe now. It's gearing us up, ready for the big punchline. We know what's sort of coming to an extent. I totally agree with Jonny as well. The music really, really, really well orchestrated throughout the entire episode. I think this episode it made me hate the Empire even more than I already did. Doing what they do with the kids, it made sense as well to how they're doing the Project Necromancer stuff. And if you think to Rise of Skywalker, where he's sort of sucking the life, if you like, out of Rey and Ben Solo, it sort of makes sense then in how he was made. I'm guessing they sort of sucked the life or the M count out of these kids, and it is a little bit gut wrenching to see, especially when you see the baby snatched from them. But on the flip side of that as well is, if you're looking at this now thinking, I can't believe that guy's just taken that baby from that mom, etc. Big shout out to Cad Bane. The Jedi do the same thing.
Yeah.
The Jedi do the exact same thing, and they turn the children into weapons. So you've just got to look at it from either side.
Yeah, and I guess it's the third one of these animated shows that we've seen the Sith and or the Empire nicking kids and messing with them, right? We've never seen them. We've never seen what they were doing with the kids necessarily. At least in Rebels, we didn't. But the Inquisitors were hunting them down. We saw it with Cad Bane as well, involved in the Clone Wars, involved in that story arc. It's kind of. I thought it was nice. I was kind of wondering, would it have been nice to see a bounty hunter other than Cad Bane doing that? But then it kind of made sense that it was him. It was him way back in the Clone Wars doing the same gig.
There's no one more sinister. What about you, Jimmy? What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I wrote down Cad Bane equals jerk. Because I just was like, man, this guy, I love him, but man, everything he does, he's just a bad dude. But yeah, the vibe, I mean, you knew immediately this was going to be another one, just like kind of like episode 1, where it was like a grind. I think they're doing a really good job of Emery slowly. I'm fearful for her because I think she's going to make a good decision and it's going to cost her. But the vibe was like, because I remember seeing some stuff about people have seen these last episodes, except for the finale, and they're like, it gets dark. So I was kind of prepared for it, but I didn't think it was going to be like this yet. But I was in a pretty good mood, and I sat down and watched these, excited, and I mean, I enjoyed them. And I'm like, I'm kind of like, I'm not gonna go talk.
It's been a roller coaster ride.
Very, very weird. Because usually, I'm pumped and ready to go, and like nothing happened, but a lot happened. I feel like in these episodes, and just kind of the way it is like you see, there's so much involved in just the little things, and I think a lot of people will miss them, and they'll be like, these episodes were filler, blah blah blah. But just all right, the children being called specimen, and just showing the coldness of Hemlock and the Empire, and he even warns her, don't get attached, and things like that. But and I just wrote down, keep them in order to control them. And I thought that just solidified what the Empire is. And of course, we had a couple cameos in this episode.
It was a good episode.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed seeing Tarkin again. Nice little cameo from Tarkin. And and I love that he's clearly not in the loop on Project
No.
Necromancer, but he's still kind of sticking his nose in. It's come up on the spreadsheet or up for review in the finance committee or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what the wording was, but he's intrigued and kind of feeling a bit left out. So he's puts in the video call like, oh, and if there's anything that I can do to help, and Hemlock's just like, nope, just the money, dude. Just wire me the money.
He's still not a Moff yet or a Grand Admiral, is he? Was he a Governor Tarkin? I think he called him.
Yeah, he's going by Governor Tarkin. He doesn't become Grand Moff until I think there's a few more years yet. It's actually in the Tarkin novel. By the end of that novel, he gets that rubber stamp from Palpy.
I like the consistency of him. Even when you're seeing, we see live action in episode 4, and then we see, Rogue One. We've seen him in Clone Wars, and it's like, and we've seen him in, the Rogue One and this guy, they feel like the same person. Like, I know I've struggled a little bit with like Thrawn live action versus Rebels, and then the books, because I feel like those are almost 3 different characters. Everyone trying to balance out who they are, but Tarkin always feels, I don't know, maybe it's just easier to write him. He's not as in depth as Thrawn, maybe, but he's just evil, and it's
been the same sort of character.
Every time I see him, I just think of Leia's. I could smell you. Like her. That one time where she goes British on us in Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, I love that little retcon, because I think what actually happened there was that stuff was shot quite early on in the shooting, and they thought maybe they'd go for some sort of mid-Atlantic or slightly British accent, but then they hated it, so she just started using her American accent. But there's a little retcon, I think, in the Bloodline novel, the Leia novel Bloodline, where she reflects on how she was mocking his accent when talking back to him. It's like, that's kind of neat. I like that. That kind of works for me.
Yeah, we just did a big Easter eggs one, and that was one of the things that we saw where that incident where, she did that, and she talks about being like kind of overwhelmed by being around him. Like it was like one of her first days on set, and she had to act with this giant of the industry, and she just got nervous, and so that's kind of cool that she had that respect for him. There's a couple of things too. I don't feel like, Project Necromancer. What do we think? Is it? What do we think it is? Is it someone that they're bringing back? Is this a test? Is this going to be Snoke? It's just going to, what I mean? Like
it's a backup for the Emperor. I think definitely.
Okay.
It makes sense with everything that we know from the Mandalorian as well. Trying to clone people with the Force, etc. So I was thinking about this earlier. It's all tying in now, and I think the Bad Batch is going to be the final tie in the knot or whatever, and not in the tie. It's going to make all the questions. A lot of questions are going to get answered, I think, with the Bad Batch in regards to how Palpatine came back. I think it'll all be told in the Bad Batch.
Yeah. It's got big Dark Empire vibes for me. That comic book from the 90s where it was Palpatine clones everywhere. That's what they want, and clearly something I think will happen that jeopardizes that or puts it, means they don't maybe achieve it on the timeline that they're aiming for. And that I can only assume at this point that will be the qualified success that our heroes here have. Yeah. Regardless of the sacrifices that are probably coming.
I think it will tie in. Sorry, Johnny. I think it will tie in as well with what Thrawn's been doing with these coffins as well.
Yeah.
At that point, obviously, the Emperor's gone, etc. He knows. So I think he hasn't got the M count to bring people back, etc., etc. But he's got Night Sister magic. So it's sort of making everything a bit more believable.
Yeah.
The last thing I have written here is Emery. She's kind of we've talked about the fact that she does have a surname, and there's something different about her. That she still has the Tuca doll, right?
Yeah.
And then she gives it to SP, was it 34, I think, or Eva. How predictions? What happens? Is she going to? She's showing all the signs of.
She's developing a conscience.
The Omega effect, as I like to call it, where she just makes everybody feel like they should do the right thing in the world. So, what do we think? Is she going to be the spark? Is she the next Nala Se kind of victim of trying to help the kids?
I think same with Bad Batch, man. I think everyone's doomed. So I think she's...
Yeah.
She's going to be. She'll have a one last heroic action. I don't think it will pay off, but still, that's another prediction.
No.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I could see a scenario in which she is the one who survives with Omega. So at least at the end of the day, Omega has her sister or something. With the guys making one sacrifice or another. That I think I could see as being a satisfying conclusion for both Omega and her. But yeah, it's probably more likely that she's a goner at some point.
Yeah.
Oof. I think another interesting point as well. Sorry, Jimmy. Another interesting point is Dr. Hemlock. We still don't really know that much about him, so I think the writers have done a great job of just keeping him mysterious, still hated, but we still don't quite understand him. And we mentioned it earlier about Tarkin as well, the fact that he's talking about his project, Necromancer, costing the Empire funds. If you remember in Rogue One as well, he was talking about Project Stardust costing a lot of money as well. So everything's just tying in so nicely. I'm looking forward to learning more about Hemlock.
Yeah, for sure.
Crazy that a comedian is the one who's voicing someone that's so evil. At just the tone, I don't know. He gives me the heebie-jeebies every time he's on the screen, and to get that kind of reaction from an animated character is kudos to the writers and to Amanda Rose. And the name is slipping me right now of who the voice actor, but man, they do a great job of just He's been a pretty polarizing bad guy throughout this series. So, all right.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on episode 10?
Only that I want Hemlock to die badly.
Yes.
But he's that kind of bad guy. The more you see of him, and you see what is going on with these kids under his tender care, I thought it was a great episode, actually. As you said, it felt like not an awful lot happened, but actually some great character work, really good vibes, cracking music. The Kiners are just knocking this season out of the park.
Oh my gosh!
It just gets better and better, the music and the work that they're putting in.
And it's a family affair too, because it's Kevin, his brother, and I think there's another Kiner that's, and I can't remember if it's the wife or a daughter, but she's involved as well.
It's a son, maybe.
Is it his son? Okay.
I think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they definitely. Man, he's been on. It's nice to see him finally getting his due. I know we, as Star Wars fans, we have always talked about him through Clone Wars and up through Rebels and stuff, and now he's finally getting, it seems like, and of course getting to do some of the live action stuff. But okay, and then we, of course, we keep that melancholy feeling rolling on through to episode 11, Point of No Return, directed by Matt Villanueva and also written by Amanda Rose Munoz. So she's got episode 10 and 11.
Yeah.
And my first note is, with the music and everything that was playing, I'm scared for everybody is what I wrote down. So what were your thoughts on episode 11? And my worst nightmare has come true in this episode. So how are we feeling about episode 11? Go ahead, Johnny.
What do you mean? We're back in lovely, peaceful Pabu. What could possibly go wrong?
Yes.
We got ice cream, we got sunshine, happy times all around. Our heroes are about to ship out just to make sure everybody is extra safe. Bad times, people. I guess it was, my overriding feeling when the previous episode finished was that, because it was a bit of a downer, like, oh, well, thank goodness there's a second episode today, because otherwise that might have felt like a bit of a downer. and then we get this episode.
Yeah.
It's kind of a series of unfortunate events, isn't it? Really.
It really is.
I enjoyed it, but it kind of left me a bit bummed at the end.
Yeah, probably the same as you, Johnny, a little bit. I wasn't quite as bummed, but the fact that I just didn't want to see Pabu get burned.
Mhm.
That's all I kept thinking. Oh, everything that happened, I was like, please don't destroy anything. Please don't destroy anything. You know, because
Yeah.
it is, but they do it on purpose, man. Like you said, John, it's a lovely planet. Everything's peaceful. It's nice. There's ice cream, etc. The Empire turns up. Brilliant.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's my thing. It's like, we'd all kind of hoped, I think, that it was going to be kind of, I don't know, like Tanalorr from Jedi Survivor or something. This kind of safe haven. The Empire was never going to get there. And now that they know the place is there and it's a place of interest to them, surely this can't ever be that again. You know,
Yeah.
even if we win in whatever shape that takes, Pabu is kind of ruined now, surely, as a safe haven, and that annoys me. On behalf of the people of Pabu.
Yeah, I feel for them, Shep and Liana and all of them. I do feel for them. Yes. And you could kind of tell too, because every time we visited this season, I feel like it's gotten darker.
Yeah.
And it's gotten darker.
Yeah.
And then of course today it was just, the calm before, and not even the calm before the storm. It was like a storm, and this has been my fear. I've said this on multiple recaps of this show, is like, I'm terrified to see that ship come out of hyperspace and be over top of that planet. And then when it happened, I was like, oh no.
Great
here
shot.
It comes.
It's that noise, that thump, thump.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know what that is. But did you notice as well that the time of day that it all happened, it was already dark as well, so it's bringing the atmosphere even more into the show.
It was a very dark looking episode, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was.
Happened during the
it's
day,
one of those
really.
episodes actually where I had to pull the curtains in the living room so that I wasn't kind of getting glare on the TV screen, because actually it's so dark that I couldn't otherwise see what was going on.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I was the same thing. Music again. I wrote, music is making me uncomfortable, is what I wrote down in my notes, just listening to it and thinking all that. And I had a thought. So Omega, and then we're going back, and there, she puts the Tuca doll, and then she's putting Tech, R.I.P., his glasses there, and I'm like, oh, she's growing up. And then I thought about all those relics and thinking about, like, is there going to something that's going to spawn from this? Because, Fee has been traveling the galaxy collecting thing. It's kind of like a Dr. Aphra almost. There's got to be some kind of like dark side relic in there or something that could, things could go sideways. But I just kind of put Omega as growing up. What do you guys think of her character development, throughout and up to this episode? Because I just put, my last note for this was, we need more Omegas in the world.
Yeah.
So
you can see at this point now in the series how developed she is, and she's more aware. She's more aware of the bigger picture. She's not just a spoilt brat as she started off. She's a lot more, there fending for herself, and you see it as well towards the end of the episode where she makes a lot of the sacrifice, thinking about the greater good, and just the way that she speaks to the clones as well. Now she's more on their level than being spoke to like a child, and they see that, they respect her a lot more. But yeah, the character development in all of them is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, she's the one who makes the hard call there at the end and convinces Crosshair that this is the way this has to go down. She in some ways she is kind of the older sister sometimes, as she is technically.
Yeah.
And she's really the character development is really getting there. She is. Yeah, I'm really impressed with how well they've pulled that character arc off. In a way that kind of feels earned and believable, and it's kind of satisfying, really satisfying to watch.
It really is.
I really liked the little tip of the hat to Tech there, actually, with the leaving the goggles.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the goggles, was it? There's there's a Tuca doll there as well. Is it
Tuca doll?
Is that Wrecker's doll? Yeah, is that Lulu, something? I can never remember the name of that thing. Yeah. I'm not one of these folk who think that the assassin is Tech. I don't buy this.
I was literally about to do that. I still think
sorry,
it is.
Jack.
Do you? Yeah, you've timed it perfectly. I think it is right, and here's why. And they sort of missed a trick then, or maybe they did it purposely. So I can't remember the pirate's name now, but when she's off doing whatever she's doing and the ship's getting fueled, the assassin jumps in there, does all the bits and bobs, gets around the system, and he purposely says it. And Dave Filoni is so clever, but they purposely say, or he says, I hacked their system, I got round it. Now, straight away, people start thinking tech. And in the next scene, we're seeing Tech's goggles and the Tuca doll. You know, things are getting placed. Now, what I would have loved to have seen is Omega get caught in the area where all the relics were, because I would have loved to have seen the assassin's reaction if the assassin had seen those goggles. I think that'd have been like a little bit of a... But again, you know, Star Wars fans, we do massively overthink things. It's completely wrong, probably.
No,
but like,
I mean, I think in this episode more than any other, I can totally see all those little clues. You know, particularly in the scene you talked about with Fee and the boarding ramp, and anyway, he slices the ship. He uses a data rod at one point. You know, what he does in that episode is all stuff that Tech could totally do.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of I waver a little bit. I'm not sure dramatically what the conclusion is from that.
I guess
that's, and maybe that's just because I'm not a brilliant writer. You know what I mean? And someone out there hopefully has written a great conclusion to that works in a way that I'll go, oh my god, it is Tech and it's amazing. I
think it'd be perfect if he was like a clone adaptation of the Bad Batch. So everything we've seen so far is you've seen Tech skills. Again, you've seen him with sort of Hunter's initiative to shoot the pilot down, again, using Crosshair's abilities. You look at the explosives stuff that he's used, again, that's Wrecker's background. So a lot of these things he's doing seem to be like skills of all the different Bad Batch.
That's what I was going to say. I think that he might be a combination of the four.
Yeah.
Because they would have all that material and, you know, I don't know. I don't want it to be Tech. I feel like that's a death that needs to stay. They don't need to resurrect. They don't need to bring him back. Even if they bring him back as a mere shadow of himself, like that's still
just leave him be.
Just let him be gone.
Yeah,
in my opinion. You know, but I do think it could be a clone of all four of them, kind of combined, like the best parts of all four of them.
Yeah,
that kind of feels like a compelling and interesting final antagonist, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They all have to team up to stop them, and so of course we lost another ship. R.I.P. the Marauder. So
I hate it when they destroy these ships.
Is that move for Lego so they can go ahead and pump out another one here for the end of the Bad Batch?
Well, at least that's one Lego set I've already got. Look.
Well, I'm just waiting for somebody to post the reel or TikTok of their deconstructed Marauder set.
Yeah,
you know, just like drop the thing on the floor. There you go.
Yeah, Marauder, up to date Marauder, just smashed to pieces. So
Marauder, April 2024.
It's kind of like you're losing at home, like when they blew up the Razor Crest in Mandalorian. I got the same like their ship, their home, everything.
I love Razor Crest.
Again, it's just another one of those little things that, you know, a lot more felt like it was happening in this, but they maintained that, just like Jack, like you said, like, man, I hate the Empire right now. Yeah. I got Kijimi vibes from the Rise of Skywalker, them rousting people out of their homes. But then, of course, we get Batcher, we get more of Batcher. I hope nothing happens to that hound. Because I wouldn't be able to handle it. But
I think like everyone as well, every time something happens or one of the Bad Batch gets into conflict, you sit there and you go, well, this is it. This is the last time I'm seeing him.
100%. 100%. And then, so final shot, literally the final shot of this, he missed.
Yeah.
He missed.
I
was like, I don't know about the two of you, but I was like, all right, here he goes. He's going to get it back. He's going to shoot it. He's got himself, he's fixed. He's doing this for Omega. And then that thing just falls into the water. I was like, and I think maybe that's where I was just like crestfallen. Like, I'm like, I mean, all the air just kind of sucked out of me. I'm hoping that Omega has one on her somehow. But I was like, I couldn't. I'm like, he missed. I think I might have even yelled out loud, he missed. So, I mean, Did you think that was going to happen? I mean, do you think he was going to save the day, or?
I'll be honest.
only
I assumed.
I thought it'd hit it, and then when he missed, I was like,
Yeah.
And then when she took off her hat, I thought, yeah, she'd got one in the hat, but then you didn't see it, and I was like, oh. And then she sort of went into that trance, but we'll talk about that in a sec.
Yeah, I totally thought he'd make the shot, and I think I was really bummed at the end of the episode because I kind of thought, even in dramatic terms, I'm like, oh god, well, where are we now? You know, we're sort of back where we were at the start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Except, Wrecker's injured, and it's all it's a really downbeat ending. I think there's a way to find her, even if she doesn't have a tracker on her.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll get to that.
Maybe she's carrying something. I don't know.
I mean, going back to the previous, not the previous episode, but last week's episode, Harbinger, wasn't there a moment when they say to Ventress that, we hadn't given our coordinates to that person? I can't remember who it was told Ventress about them.
Yeah, the Trandoshan.
Ventress says, I have my ways.
Panic.
Yeah, so Ventress found them despite not having the coordinates.
Yes.
Right?
That's what I was going to talk
about. And we're looking for a role for Ventress. Because I don't think...
I don't think we
saw the clip from the trailer, did we, in that previous episode?
I think you hit the nail on the head, because I think they'll go back to her, because they'll be like, how did you find us? And she'll be like, she can feel force sensitive,
And maybe, thinking a step beyond that, if we're looking for a way to introduce or reintroduce Quinlan Voss, who's we hope mixed up with Ventress somewhere and is mixed up with the Path, the Obi-Wan show.
Absolutely.
I mean, Voss has that psychometric ability when he touches objects, and we've left objects on Pabu that Omega has recently touched.
The goggles.
So that's kind of where my brain went. Some combination of Ventress and Voss that brings them both in more integrally to the story, and then maybe there'll be more stories to tell with them, whatever next animated show is, whatever, who knows.
That's a cracking show.
That's where my brain's at, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be a really good way to get him in, but then I'm also expecting the fact that he probably didn't miss, and the thing that dropped in the water was like the shell of the bullet or something as well. I think the whole point of these two episodes was to get us on a real downer.
Yeah, that's like some classic serial cliffhanger nonsense, where it's like a total fake out.
From this point onwards, we're literally on that roller coaster now. We're going up and down and up and down.
Yeah. 4 episodes left. 4 episodes.
I don't feel like, unless this ends really, really badly for everybody involved.
Yes.
There has to be something coming down the line. And I know, John, I don't know if you've probably, I think you kind of alluded to it, the stuff that Nika Fuderman has been saying about, there's more coming. I was actually at that Comic-Con when she was telling everybody that. She told me that to my face, and I thought, okay. So I kind of, it's like some people thought, well, maybe a Tales of the Jedi or something like that we'll get some more things, but I'm hoping you're right, because I really thought Quinlan would be involved somehow, because to bring him up in Kenobi, got the Path. I think that all of this connects with Cal Kestis.
Yeah,
Talinor. I feel like they're bringing it all kind of full circle. I mean, they're bringing everything together. I hope. I mean, maybe I'm overdoing it, but
I don't think you bring Ventress back for a couple of episodes, and I don't think you bring her back without a plan.
Yeah,
they've got a plan.
Absolutely.
I'm firmly in the camp that it's not a retcon. They've said it's not a retcon. If you read that last passage, the last couple of paragraphs of Dark Disciple, it's totally set up as if she could be resurrected. So it's all magical waters of life and stuff that she's being buried in. I don't care how they bring her back. She's back, and I'm up for it. And there's more stories to be told, and I'm really looking forward to finding out what they are.
She's an amazing character. Just from Clone Wars through, and then into Dark Disciple, I want to see more of that. I want to see that happening on screen. Yeah.
Oh man, what I wouldn't give for them to readapt those scripts back or that novel back into animation. I don't think they've gone very far down the animation path. I know there are a couple of clips out there of a few little things here and there, but I would love to see that Dark Disciple story on screen in some way, shape, or form. You know,
That would be
call
great.
it a mini-series, call it a limited Clone Wars series, whatever you want to call it. You know,
You said the same thing, didn't you, Jimmy?
Yeah, they've got to do something with it. So
there's a season's worth of Clone Wars, as long as the final season was, in that novel, which is basically 8 scripts, plus the Son of Dathomir comic, which was also 4 scripts. That's 12 episodes, basically. You know, you've got a little season of the Sith right there.
Yeah.
Just give me that in animation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited for what's next. I'm scared though. I mean, are you guys optimistic at all? Like after these 2 episodes, are you optimistic that anybody? I mean, I could see where it all ends badly, and they're making us really hate the Empire leading into whatever's next.
Yeah,
I
don't think they're going to kill Batcher.
I hope not.
I mean, if they kill the cute dog stand-in, I think there's no hope. But I think Omega will be fine, and I think maybe Omega and Batcher will be fine.
Then where
Beyond
are they?
That, where are they?
Question.
You know what I mean? Like that's my only issue is. That's kind of why I think like the Peridia stuff in Ahsoka and the Talinor stuff in the Jedi games is we have to get these characters. If anyone survives, we have to get them out of the universe because there's no way Omega, given what we've seen in these 3 seasons, stands by while people are being hurt. There is no way.
She won't sit out the Galactic Civil War, will she?
No.
Or all the oppression that leads up to it. No, you're right. Yeah, they've got to find somewhere to stick her if she survives. I mean, maybe it's a frozen in carbonite thing.
Oh no! Oh my goodness!
At least she'd be safe.
All right. Well, what are you guys' final thoughts? You can recap both. How you're feeling? I mean, I don't think Wednesday can. For me, next Wednesday cannot come fast enough. I might get up early just to watch this before work, so I know what the heck's going on.
Yeah, I'll be. For me, these episodes drop. I think it's about 8 o'clock our time, Jack, isn't it? Which is. Yeah, so I have to stay off social media only for an hour or so until I get the kids to school and I get back to my home office, and then I can sit down and watch them with a cup of coffee before I get any work done for the day. Otherwise, I'll be thinking about it all day. So that'll be me next Wednesday for sure. These left me on a bit of a downer, but I guess in the sweetest possible way because we're getting into the end game, and I'm excited, but also pretty worried about just about everybody involved. Not many of our favorite characters from this show are getting out of this one alive, I don't think, and that's going to be a bit of a downer.
There's going to be a Rogue One ending, I think.
Yeah, I'm with Jonny. I'd be very surprised if any of them made it, if I'm totally honest. I'd love to see what he said about Quinlan Vos and Asajj coming to help out, and I could see Asajj taking Omega away to train, perhaps. But I don't know. I don't think any of the Bad Batch are going to survive. I'd be surprised if Basher survives as well. I think they might leave Batcher on Pabu, mate, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
maybe. Be the safest now.
I think with all the episodes, it's brought everyone back down to earth, and just how bad things actually are.
You can feel it as we're talking. We're all kind of like, oh man,
this is
like
probably
we're excited to be here and chatting, but we're all like, I don't know what's going to happen.
People
next.
tuning into this episode, it's not us on a downer, it's you as well. Once you've watched it, trust me. We'll do our best to pick you up there.
Yeah.
Quick end on a musical number.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Jonny, I want to thank you again for joining us, and you can please tell the people one last time where they can find you, and we'll put some links in our YouTube and in the podcast so they can reach out to you. And we definitely need to have you on the show for some High Republic talk, I think.
Oh man, I'd love to. That stuff. That's some of the good
Taylor's
stuff right there. The High Republic.
Yeah.
No, guys, thank you so much for having me on. This has been a real blast. I spend so much time talking about the books. We don't always make time on our show for talking about the stuff that's going on the screen, which is kind of what Star Wars is. So this has been lovely. Thank you both. Folks, if you're not completely sick of my voice by now, you can read my ramblings on Instagram, where you'll find me as at Journals of the Wills. That's Journals with an S and Wills with an H. And you can find the Star Wars Book Community podcast on pretty much all of the main podcasty places. And indeed, you can follow the podcast team on social media, and the address there is, the handle there rather, is at SWBC Podcast.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much, Jonny, for coming on, dude. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on Explore the Force. Again, thank you to all the listeners. Let us know what you think and any comments about this week's episodes. Hit the links below, the comments below as well. Put them out there. We'll read them out as soon as we can. Again, Explore the Force on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Tell everyone about us. Get the word out. Let's build the community that we've got. Again, thank you so much, Jonny. One last thing, we'll do a little quote before we log out. So from myself, may the Force be with you. From you, Jonny.
And also with you.
Ah, very good. And for all of us, we have spoken.